All right, I think we're going to get started now. Thank you, everyone, for joining us this morning for our latest installment of Solutions for Success. Today's topic is empowering customer and member engagement with Microsoft Dynamics CRM. We will, as I move have a short agenda for today's session. Again, briefly, who are we at Point Alliance? For those of you who don't know us, the benefits of using Dynamics 365, not just as a CRM, but for client and member management. Solution architecture of what this can look like, how contacts can get created with the integration of multiple systems, how we can manage groups and synchronize those across cloud platforms, some integration considerations, and then time for questions. And we'll monitor the chat if you've got any questions as we move through this. Again, we've got a fairly packed session with content. We could probably speak for hours, but we will get through this within 30 minutes. So quick introductions. I'm Jonathan Hamilton. I'm the president here at Point Alliance. We will be sharing this video and this content out, so you don't need to worry about keeping track of all of this. I am joined today by my colleague Eleanor, our VP of Consulting Services. Also one of our senior solution architects. So I will be giving you some high-level content around the solution and how you can piece these things together. Eleanor will jump in and provide more technical detail when she feels the time is right, or whether I'm straying from what we want to articulate. Point Alliance is an organization. We are a Toronto-based Microsoft solution provider. We are a solution partner in the areas of modern work, security, digital and app innovation in Azure, and data and AI. Our team is 100% certified, and our clients are across the country, North America, and around the world as it pertains to Microsoft Cloud solutions. So let's dig into the topic at hand, Dynamics 365. And what are some of the benefits, again, to leveraging this platform from Microsoft for client and member management and engagement? We'll just go through a couple of these and then dig into a bit more of the technical content of how things fit together. But, you know, why would we use this CRM platform in particular to help manage members and clients that we may be inviting into our systems and websites and portals to distribute content or allow them self-service management of some of their member information? So certainly centralized member and client data is an important aspect of this, having a 360-degree view of our clients and our members as an organization, and being able to have all of that in one place, both for our member and client services teams internally, the clients and members themselves as they log into portals. So everything from contact details, engagement history, preferences, communications. We could have things like invoices, renewals, education, professional development, case management for disputes or complaints. All of these sorts of things can be tied tightly together within D365. Also having unified profiles for individuals consolidates this information in one place and does not have it fragmented across many different systems. The reality of environments today is that there are multiple cloud platforms being used to manage all sorts of content and data within organizations. So having one central place that people can go to find information about clients and members makes everybody's life easier. Automation and efficiency. We've got some great tools within Dynamics 365 and the Microsoft suite to automate business processes, move data around, do user approvals, things like that. And we'll get into that. And Eleanor will talk a little bit more about that in a little bit. But this can be anything from approving new users, managing groups of users, dynamically putting clients and members into groups based on organization or department or job title or job type or personal interest or a variety of different things. And again, just an example at the end, renewal reminders. We'll talk about communications and how that integrates, but whether it's sending out regular quarterly updates, renewal reminders, professional development reminders, all of these sorts of things can be generated out of the D365 backend. A couple other areas, insights and reporting. Again, we can have real-time dashboards. These can be native within, excuse me, D365, or we can integrate with Power BI. Again, this can be around group membership, customer and member engagement with our organization, things that we can use to make strategic decisions or do reviews with our constituents as to how involved they are with our organization and how they could become more involved potentially. We can identify risks of disengagement, if we want to call it that. So we can spot clients and members who may be likely to either cancel membership with our organization or become a less active client. So we can see activity in them logging into our client portals. What sorts of information are they tracking? Are they entering? What are they looking up? All of those sorts of things, again, helps us run our organization. Security and compliance, again, something we'll get into, and Eleanor can talk in a little more detail about not only role-based access, but fine-grained authorization, how that can be leveraged within your IDP and within or to govern access to different content and different data. Again, at the end of the day, ensuring that the right people have the right access to the right content. And again, error reduction, we are trying always to minimize the potential of human error when we're copying and pasting data. So we're going to, show you and talk to you about integration points between these platforms and systems, so that unique identifiers are used to pass information around, and we minimize the risk of errors. And then finally, member engagement. Leveraging this information, both user profile information that clients or members might be managing, or content that we might be tracking, or even leveraging AI to dictate or to tailor communications and web content to individuals based on who they are, what they're interested in, what their patterns of behavior may have been historically. So leveraging all this data and all this content to provide them with the most personalized experience possible, and leveraging self-service portals to, again, not only present them with content, but allow them to either update or further personalize that experience to make it as meaningful and as helpful for them as possible. So that at a high level in 2 slides, some of the benefits and reasons to leverage D365 for this purpose. So let's dig in to a high-level solution architecture review of what this can look like. And we're going to give you some examples. Again, there are multiple third-party platforms, other cloud solutions that can be integrated with D365. This can be a Microsoft solution, sort of soup to nuts, or this could be a D365 based solution that is integrating with other vendors and other platforms. So let's have a look at this, give you a couple examples to walk through and some things to think about. So here we've got a high level solution architecture diagram, and this is where I will more than gladly let Eleanor jump in whenever she feels ready, but I'll give you the high level overview. So on the left, we've got D365 running on Dataverse and leveraging this platform out of the box as much as possible. And so we've listed leads and companies, contacts, and groups. Again, our goal is to not end up with a highly customized solution, but an integrated solution that's leveraging D365 out of the box as much as possible. So as we look on sort of the right middle, we've got some integration points with D365 going out to a client portal. Again, this could be a portal running within Microsoft Portal Pages. This could be a web CMS running on a variety of different platforms. So it really depends on the organization and your standards and what is easiest to use and what will integrate best for you. But again, what we're going to talk about more so than the technology or the content and the CMS is just how do we integrate the user experience, the user request, user registration with D365, and how does that work, as well as updates user profiles. In the middle, we're talking about integration with an IDP. So again, this could be Entra or the old Microsoft Azure AD. We're going to give the example of Okta as the IDP, just because there's a little more there to talk about as it pertains to fine-grained authorization and the depth and levels that we can get to there. So how do we integrate with an IDP as it pertains to content in the client portal and access to data? And then the third box on the right side is marketing campaign software. So again, we can leverage D365 natively. We've got third-party plugins to D365, or there are other third-party SaaS offerings where we may want to be conducting our marketing campaigns, our communications, our distribution. But again, we want all of these things tied to D365 and our member and client information as the central hub. So, you know, that's a very high level of what we want to walk you through today. Again, we're going to talk about some integration points where we leverage Power Automate. We may leverage Azure functions, again, and talk about different alternatives that you may consider and why you would go in certain directions. So I don't know, Eleanor, if there's anything you'd like to touch on before I continue with the slides.
Right. So thank you, Jonathan. So just to give a high level on how this works, the event triggers are using Power Automate because Microsoft product are all interconnected. So any like creation, any update on your Dataverse entity like lead, contacts, and groups, we can easily invoke a Power Automate event trigger that we can call our web services to update any of this interface, like any the client portal, our IDP, and marketing campaign. So just for a high level, we have different Azure services uses our Azure function, and then we do this CRUD or create, read, update, delete users from different sources. Just to add on. That's all.
Okay, thank you. So if we move into the contact request creation and synchronization process, again, I'll give you perhaps a high-level description, and then I'll let Eleanor walk through the next couple of slides within D365 of just how this works. Again, think of this as either applying for membership or requesting a user registration into a client or member portal. This would be done within a page in the web CMS. But again, we want this page integrated into Dynamics because maybe we've got company or organization information already that we want to tie this user request to, or maybe we have an approved list of clients or member companies that we want to auto approve or things like that. So we're going to walk you through the request. We're going to walk you through the approval process and validation, and how this user ultimately gets web access to our portal. So Eleanor, I don't know if you'd like to talk about this, and I will click through.
Yep. Okay, thank you, Jonathan. So this is just a sample page on how users submits a request to register for an account. So with like their first name, last name, and then with a drop down of predefined companies. And then from there, they could just add like minimum information because D365 already have those predefined information. With this type of portal, we know we kind of filter what user who can log into our portal. So click on same one. Jonathan, click on. Yep. So after that, when the user submits, what it creates is a new lead on D365. So the above process tells you the process flow on how these records go from one step to the next. So what we've done, a minor customization in D365 is create a lead. We don't need to create an opportunity because it's not like it's not meant for this one. But then what we have done is like we qualify a lead. And then as you also notice on the middle, the company has a predefined addresses information when this person registers, right? So the contact information, the company information, and the timeline gives you when that submission occurred. Okay, click on this. So after we qualify a lead, it creates so to qualify, not that one. So we created a new action called qualify lead and then modify this this action to create a contact. Click again. And then this is just triggering a flow to create a contact within 365. So to find it, there's a group of views for that entity contact, and then just use the search bar and find that new person. And then we click on it. So when the person, internal staff verify that this is legitimate, that this person can access the portal, what they have to do is just click approve. This function, this action will trigger a lot of things. So it triggers our Power Automate that calls the web service, and that web service calls in Okta to generate that email notification. So this is just like a default setup of our IDP that lets user to change their or set up their password. And then with this, you can custom control like how the complexity of your password, right, on this IDP. Click again. And then we also enable the MFA, multi-factor authentication, however the user wanted to access their portal, right? So click again. So it always depends on how you would like to which IDP you use to connect with D365. And then once this IDP is already configured to access your D365, we have another web service to keep track of when was the last time this user logged into the portal. So we created custom columns to make sure that whoever uses the G65, the staff itself, they can check, how often this person log into their site, and then like when the update was happening. So if they update their profile, we have this field, a toggle field called portal update, when their information got updated.
Okay. Yeah, so I think there's a couple things. So one, I think we just walked you through at a very high level the example of Okta as the IDP. This could be Azure B2C as well. This could be another IDP, and a lot of them provide similar functionality around multi-factor authentication and things like that. Again, I think it's important to note what Eleanor is showing you here with the last logged in and portal update. again, talking about the centralization of the contact information or the user information. So, the last thing we want somebody in client or member services to have to do is to have to figure out, which system do I go to find this information, and how do I get in, and how do I see it? It again comes back to that 360-degree view of the client or the member, and keeping as much of that information centralized and viewable within D365 as possible. So, we may have the contact information, the organization information, the login information coming back from the IDP, and then we'll take you into some of the group management next. So, talking about group management and synchronization. So we talked about very high level, the user registration process and how that would flow through leads and approved contacts within D365. Then we may well have groups, and groups may be used for a variety of purposes. Groups could be types of customers. Groups could be committees that an organization is running. Groups could be areas of interest or event groups attending different functions that we may coordinate. So the group management component may have different aspects to it. It could also be for security purposes or email distribution or other things that we're doing as an organization. So we're just going to run through sort of how we manage those groups, or how you might do that within D365. So really, I think I talked about this a little bit. How do we create a group? What types of groups have we got? As we look at security groups and distribution groups, how do we separate those? And maybe we're synchronizing that information into different locations. So maybe the contacts, and we talked about, synchronizing them into your IDP for authentication and authorization into web applications. But maybe we're also looking to push that into Entra so that our internal users can access group and contact information right from Microsoft Outlook to either reach out to them, or to email to groups and things like that. So, Eleanor, maybe I'll have you jump back in, if you wouldn't mind, just to talk a little bit about this.
Sure. Thank you. So this is in D365, like out of the box, it doesn't have a group per se as an entity. So we created a custom group entity within D365 to manage group access, group distribution. So to create a group is just very simple that we have added. So name, group type can be security, distribution, or category, and the parent group if this is nested, right? So click OK. Next one. And then so also within that group, there is the membership for that group. So this is where we add contacts within the group, or approve contacts within the group. So to add it in D365, when you create relationship between two entities, one to many, it will give you this subgrid that you're allowed to create a new record. So you create new group role, click, right? And then again, so you just have the member, the contact name. The contact name will pull automatically like where this contact belongs to, the company and all that. And then you have the group name, right? So after saving, enter, this is actually what's happening in the background. So when we create a group, there is, if it's a distribution and security, as soon as we add members to it, there are two things that's happening. One, if it's security, we have a Power Automate as event trigger that pushes this user to FGA tuple. So in FGA tuple is like we created different relationship, or so we structured the relationship that this group would have this member with this role type. So with FGA tuple, you can design your own relationship in when you're designing groups. So again, how we interface it, we create a new group, then group added a new member, and new triggers are happening, and then using Power Automate, and then we push that update to tuple. And the other one is if it's a distribution group, if we know it's a, let's say it's a mailing, we have like either we use Microsoft Graph, and sometimes Microsoft Graph has some limitations, like, if you're only putting contacts on M365, we have to use a different way of doing it. But then if you are like updating like guest user or user, you can use Microsoft Graph to update M365. And then another trigger we're doing is if it's a group and then you have a campaign on a different mailing or like a marketing campaign software, you have that we call another push to this marketing campaign, like SurveyMonkey or like constant contact with this web service. Okay. Again, sorry. Click again. So the fine grained authorization, when you create a new member for that group, what happens is this is a sample of the record that we create on the left side. And then as soon as we save that record, that Power Automate event trigger will add a new entry on this tuple management. So this tuple management has to be created first before we have this object created. So we have a user object, which is the email, and the object called like, disciplinary action group. This is like in FGA, there has to be a certain like a rule, okay, no spaces whatsoever. It has to be unique. And then the relation is a member. So team training is a member of this group. So that object relationship has to be designed first on this IDP and group management before we push it. Okay.
Okay. So just some integration considerations, and we've only got a couple minutes left, and some of these Eleanor has touched on already. But things to think about as we're integrating these platforms. So Microsoft D365 APIs. So we were talking or leveraging this within the user registration page. We didn't go into great detail, but you may have drop downs again of organization names or member names or some of the categories that Eleanor was talking about. Again, we don't want to manage those in separate lists in our web CMS. We want to draw those from D365 where we're managing those centrally. Power Automate triggers, again, Eleanor touched on this in a number of areas when we're synchronizing our data, either pushing it or updating it up into the IDP. It could be out into the marketing campaign software. It could be to M365. We could be going to a variety of places. Again, we can leverage Microsoft Graph for some of this, depending on the integration within the Microsoft Cloud. But there are certain limitations, and Eleanor referenced this as an example of pushing groups and contacts into your Entra ID if you want to make them available to people using Outlook. And so you may have to leverage PowerShell scripts in those instances to do some of that integration and synchronization. So again, all tools that you've got from Microsoft, all things that play very nicely with D365. But depending on what you're trying to push and pull and synchronize, there may be different approaches to doing it depending on the platform. Secondly, with all these integration activities, how do we log, how do we monitor, how do we troubleshoot when there's potentially issues or data that's getting out of whack or data that's not aligning anymore within these processes? So certainly documentation is very important, both technical documentation and troubleshooting documentation for all these integration points, all the triggers, all the workflows that are pushing data around the environments. Notifications, so who's getting notified when things don't run smoothly. So when a process kicks off and does not run successfully, either completely, does not connect or times out or partial data uploads are done, who's getting notified, where are these being tracked? What sort of bulk data synchronizations are being done perhaps to reconcile or assist in keeping these synchronizations running smoothly. So maybe we've got, as Eleanor referenced earlier, event triggers that are kicking off individual synchronizations, but maybe in the evenings, whether it's a daily or a weekly process, we're going out and making sure that all of these updates have been done and have been done successfully, or retrying any of them. And then finally, centralized data logging, and I think a good example of this that Eleanor referenced was just the integration, pulling information back from the IDP into D365, because really we want our member and client services folks operating in one platform as much as possible, and being able to generate their reports and do a bunch of their troubleshooting before having to reach out to IT to dig further. But Eleanor, I think you may want to just jump in for a sec.
Right. So there's also like for login monitoring and troubleshooting, once you enable, let's say, your environment to manage environment, you can also use application insights, right, to see and monitor like what power, like your Power Automate, like if there is any errors, failures. It can give you a dashboard or how many runs has been like had failed, or at least it gives you a better insight, like if all the integrations are working properly, if it's 90% working, 100% working. So application insight is also a good way to do all this, to see all this logging and monitoring. Okay. We have a question in the chat from Dinesh. Do you want to go to that, Jonathan?
Sure. Are there, and I know we've just run a little bit over, so we'll try and be quick in answering these questions. Are there any additional D365 costs associated with this setup for user licensing? So a bit of a loaded question. Let's see if I can answer it as easily as possible. So most of what we've demoed for you today is out-of-the-box functionality within D365. So leveraging the lead process for approvals and contacts, again, is all there. You may just need to modify some of that workflow. The group functionality that we were demoing is a custom entity that's been added into D365. So I think it depends on the licensing that you've got. I guess there isn't anything that we showed that requires additional D365 licensing.
No,
Eleanor?
so you need to have like at least a pro or enterprise license to make this customization. And keep in mind the volume, it always depends on how many user license you have, right? So like the other customizations, like for example, having Power Automate, that's a different licensing, because depending on how you use the Power Automate, so for example, you're using Graph to access the data or like update the like your Azure, right? So you need to have at least a person or a user must have a premium account to use those Microsoft things. But to at least a D365 user contacts and lead, as long as you have the user license, you can do that. And then as long as you have enough like a storage space, depending on how much license you have, that should be enough.
And then one more question just about the requirement for Power Automate if Azure B2C is the IDP. And would you still use Power Automate, or would there be different options for integration between D365 content and Azure B2C?
So it depends on how you would use. So if you're going to use a B2C, right, there are things that you have to configure on D365, right? Sometimes it will automatically use IDP to like B2C to enter those information, but only certain information being pushed there. But another thing too is like if you use your B2C for login to the portal, you need to use your B2C to put customization on your login pages, that type of things, right? So it depends on on what part of the process you're pushing your contacts to Azure B2C.
All right, everyone. I guess that's the end of the question. Thank you, Jonathan and Eleanor. That was a wonderful presentation. Just to wrap the session up, again, as Jonathan mentioned earlier, this recording will be on our YouTube channel, and the presentation will also going to be on our website. Check out our upcoming events. We run this session third Tuesday of each month, and you can go to pointalliance.com/events. You can see our upcoming events for the remaining of the 2025. Also, if you did enjoy this session, there's a QR code that you can scan and just leave us a review. If you don't mind, and John, I'm going to go to the next page. And yes, just scan this. We would love to get your 5-star review on our Google. And that's it. This brings the session to the conclusion. Thank you all, and looking forward to see you at our next event.